Hi guys, Drew here, back with another video, and welcome to episode 2 of GFR. In today's episode, I will be talking about the 2019-20 Newfoundland Growlers team. And I tell you, this team was something special. But before I get started, they weren't even able to be in the playoffs. It was cut short due to COVID, so they weren't able to finish. But this team definitely was really good. They finished the season with a record of 42-17-1. John Snowden was the head coach. He was the head coach for the Kelly Cup winning team, of course, that I mentioned last video. But the Growlers, they were a really good team. I've just got to say that they broke the ECHL record by winning most games in a row at home. The original record was actually 25 years prior to the Growlers breaking it by the South Carolina Stingrays back in 2095. So the Growlers break the record in this season. They played really well this season, honestly. The leading point scorer was Brady Ferguson. He had 63 points. The leading goal scorer, Justin Brazo, he had 27 goals. Brazo was a rookie for the Growlers at that time. He had a really good, strong rookie season for them. The leading penalty minutes, Matt Bradley, he had 80 penalty minutes. So it's actually kind of surprising that it's not James Willendy. But he didn't get to play much, even though he was a little less than Bradley. He had 78 penalty minutes. The leading defenseman in points went to Joey Duzak. He got 35 points in 34 games, so he's over a point per game. And for a defenseman, that is certainly impressive. Joey Duzak, definitely one of the better defensemen of the Growlers' history. And then the most underrated player I think that the Growlers had in that season, one that may be a little controversial, but I got Dylan Vander Esch. I mean, this guy, in 31 games, he had 8 goals, 9 assists for 17 points. Almost about a point per game, but not just quite. Yeah, only about 10 games more where he should have got a point and he would have been point per game. But Dylan Vander Esch, definitely one of the most underrated players, I think, for the Growlers. And he only played 7 games this year for the Atlanta Gladiators, and he's pretty much since the 2019-20 season. He didn't play in the 2020-21 season, but then he signed with the Florida Everblades in the 2021-22 season, and that year they actually won the Kelly Cup, so he is a Kelly Cup champion. But then in the 2022-23 season, he didn't play any hockey, and then this year he's only played 7 games. So I don't know if this is near the end of Dylan Vander Esch's pro career, or he may take his talents over to Europe, or possibly stay in the ECHL. The guy's from San Jose, California. Spent a lot of time watching Ryan Clough growing up, and he was their head coach, the Growlers head coach in their first season. But Vander Esch, definitely one of the most underrated players in my opinion, at least. There were 2 players for the Growlers on that roster that played in the NHL at some point. One player was Justin Brazo. He's probably the more recent. He played for the Boston Bruins last season and for some time in the playoffs. He didn't play that bad in the playoffs either. Definitely one of Boston's more skilled players. Well, not such great as a skater, but he did play really well for Boston. And then Mac Hollowell. Mac Hollowell played a few games for the Toronto Maple Leafs last season in the 2022-23 season. So he's a pretty solid defenseman. He didn't play much for the Growlers. He mostly played at the start of the season, but then left them halfway through, I believe. So Mac Hollowell, definitely really good player for the Growlers, really skilled as well. And yeah, so the highest and lowest plus minus. Brady Ferguson gets the highest plus minus. He really played well. I mean, in the last year, I said Scott Pooley, he had the most goals with 31, and he had the highest plus minus as well. So definitely, it seems like the highest point getter is or highest goal scorer is some of the highest plus minuses, as Brady Ferguson had a plus 21. But the lowest plus minus wasn't even a really, I won't say he's not important, but he was a really solid player. I mean, in the time he played in Newfoundland. But that's Michael Crowcock. He had a -4. So isn't really that bad, honestly. Like that answer there to the -4, which just definitely shows how much Growlers players were good in that season. But honestly, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I think this team could have won the Kelly Cup. I'm not trying to be biased. I'm honestly not. Even if I was unfaithful, I really think that they could have won the Kelly Cup. They were just so dominant in the time they played, and I just think that they would have had a chance to be crowned the Kelly Cup for the second time in a row. But the Growlers just due to a virus, aren't able to play in the playoffs in this season. But yeah. So the All Star in that season was actually Joseph Duzak. He as I mentioned before, 35 points in 34 games. Played a bit of time in the AHL, but in the time he spent down in the ECHL, he played really well. And actually, Joey Duzak is now playing for Springfield of the AHL. He was in a pretty controversial move. I forget what happened, but he had an interaction with Kyle Clifford earlier this year that was a little bit controversial. But I mean, you can only say so much. But there's actually two players that I think were the most important for the Growlers in this, especially in the run where they were on that long run for winning games. But two players that I wanted to talk about are Parker Gahagan and Angus Redmond. Parker Gahagan signed with the Growlers from the SPHL, and he came up and he may be one of the best Growlers goalies in the Growlers history. He had a 10-4-0 record. That's the only time he ever played for the Growlers is in only 14 games. But in those 14 games, he had a 1.81 goals against average and a 939 save percentage. I mean, Parker Gahagan, really well played. I mean, every game he played, there was at least one desperation save that you just got out of your seat and you're like, what just happened? Like Parker Gahagan, I mean, he's now playing in the AHL, I believe, for Lehigh Valley. Played a bit for the Reading Royals this year. But we actually saw him. He was actually teammates with Dylan Van Der Esch for the Florida Everblades when they won the Kelly Cup in 2022. But Parker Gahagan, I mean, he's just one player that one goalie. Maybe one of the best goalies in Growlers history, honestly. I mean, Luke Kaplan may be up there for one of the best, Michael Gartag as well. But Parker Gahagan is definitely a close one for that number one spot for goalies. But then don't doubt on Angus Redmond. I mean, he had a 16 2-0 record. I mean, most of the games he played and he won. A 2.5 goals against average and a 910 save percentage. I mean, Angus Redmond really played well for the Newfoundland Growlers, and he played a bit for the Growlers actually in the next season, I believe, in the 2000 the next year. But the year he played for the Growlers the next season, it was a little mediocre, I'm going to be honest with you. But for the 2019-20 season, he was absolutely outstanding, I've got to say. He played really well for the Growlers. So hats off to Angus. He's actually now a goalie coach somewhere, I forget. But he isn't playing pro hockey anymore. So hats off to Angus for a great career, especially with the Growlers. Played a bit for the Marlies as well in the 2020-21 season when he was still under contract with the Marlies. So if the Growlers were to play in the 2020-21 season, he probably would have been their starter. So not that bad for him at all. But yeah, the 2019-20 season Newfoundland Growlers were definitely a historic one. We started the season started with the raising banner. There were a few returnees like Zach O'Brien, Matt Bradley, and they certainly impressed. I mean, Marcus Power as well was another, definitely one of the most underrated Newfoundland Growlers, I've got to say. He was definitely a fan favorite, not gonna lie, but he played really well for the Growlers under like players like Zach O'Brien. I mean, he was pretty solid. And actually Marcus grew up with Zach O'Brien, so that was pretty cool. They were best friends growing up, and then they finally came to play with each other, not play against each other, play with each other in Newfoundland, and they have the nickname the Super News because that's what they are and that's what they do. But yeah, so not really. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, if there were playoffs, obviously last video was like 17 minutes or so. But if there was playoffs, I believe, yeah, if there was a playoffs in this season, I probably would have more to talk about. But this team was something special. I watched a lot of their games. They were winning games against Kansas City like 7-1. And just yeah, they were playing really well, really good hockey. For a squad in Newfoundland. So, yeah. I mean, their goal song stayed Lukey's Boat for that season. I mean, it wasn't that bad. It was like a mix of Lukey's Boat and then some other like random goal songs. So if you want to go find that, I may put the link in the description. But it kind of just sounded like a bit of Lukey's Boat. But yeah, so that's pretty much going to do it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you do like the video, you can subscribe if you really like it. We're on the road to 300 subscribers. If you can hit that subscribe button down below, I'd really appreciate it. We're on the road to 300 subscribers, so hopefully we can hit it soon. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. And I'll talk to you all again in episode 3 of GFR.